The servers never stop running, day and night. Billions of posts, billions of clicks, billions of data points flowing through the most powerful information machine ever built. Behind the screen, the woman does not move. She knows exactly what is happening.
Here today because I believe that Facebook's products harm children, stoke division, weaken our democracy, and much more.
This is a purge, not of people, of truth. Internal research showing that Facebook's platforms are harming teenage girls, driving political violence, spreading misinformation that the company's own scientists have proven deadly.
Facebook whistleblower Frances Haugen sees no sense in the social media giants.
Documents that were never meant to leave the building, but she has a plan.
You know, my moment where I decided I had to do something was when they dissolved civic integrity. And I didn't know how I would do it yet. Like, I had to think for a long time on how to do it in the right way.
Unlike the thousands of employees who saw the same research and said nothing, she wants to get caught. She is a product manager inside Facebook's civic integrity team. She has spent 2 years watching the company bury its own findings. She has watched elections destabilize. She has watched genocide accelerate on platforms Facebook controls. She has watched the company choose profit over every warning its own employees raised. And she has made a decision. Her name is Frances Haugen, and her mission is clear. Get inside, document everything, and when the time is right, burn it all down. She cannot know yet that she will succeed, that she will build a secret archive, that she will smuggle out tens of thousands of internal documents, that she will sit before the United States Congress and say out loud what Facebook spent billions of dollars trying to hide, that world leaders will call her brave, that Mark Zuckerberg will call her a traitor. She cannot know any of that yet. For now, she just has to get the job. This is the story of Frances Haugen, the woman who went undercover in Facebook. It is 2018. Facebook has just survived its worst year on record. Cambridge Analytica, Russian election interference, the congressional hearings where Mark Zuckerberg sat before senators who barely understood what a cookie was and somehow still came out looking worse than him. Zuckerberg had spent 2 days in Washington answering questions about a company he built in a Harvard dorm room and had grown into something that 1 in 3 people on Earth use every single day. He wore a suit. He apologized. He said the words, "We will do better," and the stock barely moved, because Wall Street already knew what Zuckerberg knew. Sorry is free, and Facebook's revenue that year was $55 billion. The company is under pressure, and under pressure, companies make promises. Facebook promises to do better. It creates new teams, new policies, new departments with serious-sounding names. One of them is the Civic Integrity Team. Its job is to study how Facebook affects democracy, elections, political violence, the spread of dangerous misinformation. It is on paper one of the most important teams at the most powerful media company in history, and in 2019, Frances Haugen joins it. She is not a newcomer to Silicon Valley. She has worked at Google, at Yelp, at Pinterest. She has spent over 15 years inside big tech. She knows how these companies work. She knows the language. She knows the culture. What she does not know yet is just how deep the rock goes. Frances's first weeks inside Facebook's Civic Integrity Team feel like being handed a flashlight in a dark room. Slowly, shapes emerge. The company has conducted research on its own products. Real research. Rigorous research. The kind of research that pharmaceutical companies are legally required to publish. Facebook is not legally required to publish anything. And what the research shows is devastating. Facebook's algorithm is not neutral. It is not simply showing people what they want to see. It is actively promoting content that generates outrage. Because outrage generates engagement. And engagement generates money. The more angry you are, the more you scroll. The more you scroll, the more ads you see. The more ads you see, the more money Facebook makes. Anger is the product, and Facebook's own scientists have proven it. Frances reads study after study, report after report. The company knows its platforms are driving political polarization. The company knows its recommendation algorithm pushes users toward increasingly extreme content. The company knows Instagram is damaging the mental health of teenage girls. Its own internal research says so. One slide from an internal presentation reads, "We make body image issues worse for 1 in 3 teen girls already struggling with body image." Zuckerberg's team buried it. Francis keeps reading. Another report shows that 64% of people who joined extremist groups on Facebook did so because the algorithm recommended those groups to them, not because they sought them out, because Facebook pushed them there. Zuckerberg's team buried that too. By 2020, Francis has seen enough to understand what she is looking at. This is not a company that does not know about the harm it causes. This is a company that knows and has decided that the cost of fixing it is too high. Every proposed change to the algorithm that might reduce misinformation also reduces engagement. Every reduction in engagement reduces revenue. And Facebook's revenue in 2020 is $86 billion. The math is simple. People can get hurt. Numbers must go up. Mark Zuckerberg understands this math better than anyone. He built the formula. He approves the roadmap. He sits at the top of a company where no single decision of consequence happens without his knowledge. This is not a company that got away from its founder. This is a company that reflects him perfectly. Francis watches this calculation play out in real time during the 2020 United States presidential election. The civic integrity team has spent months building safeguards, tools designed to slow the spread of misinformation, to reduce the amplification of content that has been flagged as false or inflammatory. They work. The research shows they work. Then the election ends, and Facebook turns them off. It was a one-time election thing. Company leadership decides the safeguards are no longer necessary. Zuckerberg signs off. 3 months later, on January 6, 2021, a mob storms the United States Capitol. Francis watches it happen on the same screens she uses to study Facebook's data. She already knows what the data will show. Content calling for violence at the Capitol had been spreading on Facebook for weeks. Flagged by her team, escalated, and deprioritized. Zuckerberg posts a statement calling the event shocking and sad. Francis reads it at her desk. She has already made her decision. After January 6th, Francis begins her real mission. She is going to leave Facebook, but she is not going to leave quietly. She is a data scientist. She knows exactly what she is looking for and exactly where to find it. Over the months that follow, she begins copying documents, methodically, carefully, internal research, internal presentations, internal communications, 22,000 pages. She uses Facebook's own internal tools to pull reports. She saves them using her phone. She organizes them by topic, by team, by date. The documents cover everything: Instagram and teenage mental health, the algorithm and political extremism, misinformation and vaccine hesitancy, violence in Ethiopia, India, Myanmar, countries where Facebook's platforms had accelerated real-world bloodshed, and the company had responded by cutting its safety teams, because those markets were not profitable enough to justify the expense. One internal document showed that Facebook's own researchers had proposed changes that would have reduced the spread of misinformation significantly. Zuckerberg rejected them. The reason given internally was that the changes would have also reduced the time users spent on the platform. Less misinformation or more revenue. Zuckerberg chose revenue. Every document is a brick. Francis is building a wall. In May 2021, Frances Haugen walks out of Facebook's offices for the last time. She carries no stolen hardware, no USB drives, no dramatic exit, just the documents, already copied, already organized, already in the hands of her lawyers. She contacts the Securities and Exchange Commission. She contacts the Wall Street Journal. She contacts Congress, and then she waits. On September 13th, 2021, the Wall Street Journal begins publishing what it calls the Facebook files. The first story runs, then another, day after day for weeks. The documents reveal that Facebook knew its platforms were causing harm at a global scale, that it had chosen not to fix the problems, that it had misled the public, regulators, and investors about the safety of its own products. Zuckerberg responds quickly. He posts a lengthy statement saying the documents are being used to paint a false picture of the company. He says the research is being mischaracterized. He says Facebook cares deeply about the well-being of its users. He says these things from a compound in Hawaii that cost him $270 million to build. The public reaction is immediate. Lawmakers who could barely define an algorithm in 2018 are now reading Francis's internal documents on the Senate floor. On October 5, 2021, Frances Haugen reveals herself publicly. In an interview broadcast to millions of viewers, she says plainly what the documents show. Facebook knows, Facebook chooses, and Facebook lies. 2 days later, Frances Haugen sits before the United States Senate. She is calm. She is precise. She is devastating. Senator after senator asks her questions, and unlike Mark Zuckerberg 3 years earlier, she answers them directly, with citations, with document numbers, with the kind of specificity that can only come from someone who spent 2 years inside the machine. She tells the senators that Facebook's products harm children, that its algorithm amplifies hate, that the company has consistently chosen growth over safety. She tells them that this is not an accident, it is a business model, and at the center of that business model is one person. Mark Zuckerberg started Facebook at 19 years old in a Harvard dorm room. He is now one of the wealthiest people in the history of the world with a net worth of over $200 billion. He controls the largest social network ever built. He controls the company's stock with a special class of shares that gives him the final say on every major decision, regardless of what investors or employees or governments want. No board can remove him. No shareholder revolt can stop him. No congressional hearing can compel him to change a single line of code. Frances tells the senators that is the problem. When one person has the ability to override every safety concern, every research finding, every internal warning, and faces no meaningful consequences for doing so, you do not have a tech company, you have a monarchy. The hearing lasts hours. When it ends, Frances Haugen has done something almost no one had managed to do before. She has made the United States Senate angry at Mark Zuckerberg in a way that might actually produce consequences. Zuckerberg does not appear before Congress again. Instead, he announces the metaverse. Facebook rebrands to Meta. Zuckerberg puts on a virtual reality headset and walks through a digital world he promises will be the future of human connection. He spends tens of billions of dollars building it. Almost no one uses it. Meanwhile, the company launches a PR campaign calling Frances's documents misleading and taken out of context. Its lawyers send letters. Its lobbyists make calls. Former staffers appear on television to defend the company's safety record. But the documents are public now. Researchers study them. Regulators reference them. Journalists build years of reporting on them. In the United Kingdom, the Online Safety Act passes in part because of what Frances revealed. In the European Union, new platform regulations tighten. In the United States, lawsuits are filed by dozens of state attorneys, generals citing the internal research Frances smuggled out of the building. Frances testifies before parliaments in the United Kingdom, Europe, Canada. She founds an organization dedicated to platform accountability. She does not stop. Zuckerberg does not stop either. Meta's revenue climbs. Instagram grows. Threads launches. The advertising machine keeps running. The servers never stop. There is a version of this story where Frances Haugen is a cautionary tale. A woman who gave up a high-paying career, who made powerful enemies, who took enormous legal and personal risk, who watched the company she exposed continue to operate, to grow, to profit. That version of the story is not wrong. Facebook did not collapse. Meta's stock recovered. Mark Zuckerberg is worth over $200 billion. But there is another version. The version where one person with access to the truth decided that access was not enough, that knowing was not enough, that watching was not enough, and did something about it. Frances Haugen did not have weapons. She did not have an army. She did not have billions of dollars or a special class of shares. that gave her unchecked power over one of the most influential institutions on Earth. She had a phone, a lawyer, and 22,000 documents that proved a trillion-dollar company had been lying to the world. She used all three. Here is what Mark Zuckerberg did not want you to know. He knew. He knew his algorithm promoted outrage over truth. He knew Instagram was damaging teenage girls. He knew his platforms were accelerating political violence in countries around the world. He knew his recommendation system pushed users toward extremism. He knew, and he calculated, and he decided that the cost of fixing it was greater than the cost of the harm. The documents prove it. Not allegations, not theories. Internal research conducted by his own employees, presented to his own leadership team, and filed away in servers that were never meant to be seen by anyone outside the company. Frances Haugen saw them, and then she made sure the rest of the world did too. Mark Zuckerberg built a machine that runs on human attention. He optimized it for engagement. He made it as addictive and as outrage-inducing as the data said it needed to be. He looked at the research that said it was hurting people and he made his calculation. Frances Haugen made hers. One of them has $200 billion. The other changed the world anyway.